Education and training of children with mental retardation demands systematic planning and very careful implementation. The ultimate aim of education when it comes to mental retardation is threefold, namely personal adequacy, social competency, and economic independence. Depending on the severity level of the intellectual disability the child has, he will be able to achieve to certain extent the personal adequacy and the social competencies and economic independence. In other words, not all children achieve all the three. However, it lies in the hands of the smart teacher to get the best out of each of the students that she has with her. A good teacher will find anything and everything around her a teaching material, and she knows how to use it effectively for her student group. Some material, however, have to be very carefully developed, and when we say carefully developed, they need to be used to give a certain skill to the child, and as the days pass by, the teacher will have to fade the use of the aid and make him comfortable in work in his environment without the use of any of the aids and appliances. This film aims at giving support to the teachers as well as any trainers, may it be a parent, may it be a brother or sister, a neighbor, a community worker, whoever happens to work with a mentally retarded person. In this film, we tried to provide certain cues and tips to trainers in helping children with mental retardation, in giving them the personal adequacy skills or the competencies in the society, as well as living independently, including earning some money to the extent possible. It can be used by the parents, the trainers, the community workers, the teachers, anybody who feels responsible and wants to work with persons with mental retardation. Here is a small presentation from NIMH.
We use a number of materials for our day-to-day functioning, right from waking up in the morning till going to bed in the night. Some of the materials are necessary to perform a function, such as a plate to hold the food or clothes to cover oneself, while some others are additional ones to enhance functioning, such as use of calculators, diary for maintaining appointments, addresses and phone numbers. The materials that assist in each of these functioning are called teaching or learning aids. While some materials are used only during the learning phase, like the beads and blocks for numbers and colors, some others are used as a support for functioning, like crutches or wheelchair for a person who has difficulty in walking. Those materials which are used only during learning are known as learning aids. But the ones which help in the performance of an activity or to compensate for a disability are known as functional aids.
షుగర్ తీయగా ఉంది. ఇదేంటి షుగర్ చూడు, షుగర్ పంచదార ఎలా ఉంది పంచదార.
When we talk about people with mental retardation, it is very important to follow certain guidelines in selecting suitable aids for them. In people with mental retardation, transfer of training from one situation to another does not happen automatically because of limited cognitive ability. Therefore, we have to plan activities to generalize the learned skills.
పల్లి చూడు.
A smart teacher should try to select such materials which will minimize the transfer of learning in a retarded child. That is, he or she should make use of materials which are naturally available in the child's environment. The teacher should avoid simulating situations for teaching. In a way, this means that one should be cautious in using learning aids for children with mental retardation. As a rule, whichever activity can be taught in a natural environment directly to the child should be taught without the use of additional materials. By doing so, the child learns directly and utilizes the skill without spending time and effort on transferring. For instance, unbuttoning and buttoning of clothes should be taught directly on the child by helping him to put on his own clothes rather than trying to do it on a button frame, dolls or any other situation. This will help in avoiding left-right confusion for the child. Similarly, there are a number of daily activities, the performance of which can be taught directly in the situation without additional aids and apparatus. Now the teacher is posed with the problem of what activities need aids. Whether the aid has to be a learning aid or a functional aid. How to make a decision on selection of aids. Certain principles need to be followed in the selection of learning aids and functional aids.
పండి నువ్వు కొట్టి మంచి తీసుకో.
Learning passes through the stages of acquisition, maintenance and generalization.
ఏం తెచ్చుకున్నావు? అన్నమా పెట్టుకో, కొంచెం పెట్టుకో.
When a skill is being acquired, the child relates it to the earlier learning, performs the new learning and gradually ease in the performance of the newly learnt activity. Once acquired, the teacher has to watch out for the child's maintenance of this learned skill without the adult support, which means the learner should perform the learned skill independently with minimum or no support. When the child performs with ease over a period of time, the teacher can introduce speed in the activity. It is a known fact that mentally retarded children are slow in performance of skills. Therefore, it is important now that the teacher times the activity when the child has acquired the ability to perform an activity within a given time. Generalization or performance of the skill in different situations with mild variations can be introduced. Timed performance can be monitored during generalization also. Because increasing speed of performance in a child with mental retardation is a challenge to the trainer as well. This performance of task with ease and maintaining speed is also known as fluency.
1, 2, 3.
Use of computers being the trend of the day, it is after all natural that a person with mental retardation should have access to the use of computers. Suitably developed software can be very useful in training basic concepts to retarded children through computers initially and later to be generalized.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next.
Talking to a retarded child about distance between Hyderabad to Delhi or Delhi to Mumbai in the classroom may not be of much use. If the same can be shown in a computer program visually, the perception of distance will be very meaningful to the student. Concepts like road accidents, electric shock and death cannot be taught in classrooms as planned schedules. Such things can be best taught effectively through video films or computers. These learning aids are very handy in getting across the message easily, especially those having cause and effect relationship, as they don't understand if and then relationship when verbally told. A smart teacher will use the visuals from news on television such as road accidents to explain this. If such a situation occurs, then what they should do. Whether it is an activity for daily living or academic skill, such as reading, writing, arithmetic, time, measurement, money, domestic or vocational skills, the basic principles followed remain the same as described till now.
ప్లస్ కదా కలుపు లెక్క పెట్టు మళ్ళీ ఫైవ్ రైట్
It is just the activity that undergoes a change. Selection of activity should be age appropriate and it should be useful to the student. The teacher must ensure before selection of the activity the need for the child to perform the given activity. People with mental retardation are known to have limited ability to retain learned skills unless they are kept in practice. Therefore, it is important that the teacher ensures everything that is taught is useful to the child in day-to-day activities. Certain activities are occasional or seasonal, like kite making before Sankranti or pickle making during mango season. A person with mental retardation can be involved in these activities. Even if the retarded person achieves the skill during one season, he is most likely to forget it before the next season due to lack of practice. So, he needs to be taught the activity right from the beginning again. Therefore, the teacher should plan in such a way that either the activities learnt are continuously performed or find a way by which the steps involved are kept in memory. One way of retaining the learned skills which are not performed frequently is by verbally asking related questions in context. Say, ask about pickle making while pickle is being served during meal time. Learning occurs moving from simple to complex. Let us take for instance the example of learning a domestic skill like cutting vegetables. The hierarchy of teaching should be so planned that the easier tasks come first and then the difficult ones. Begin with vegetables that do not need a knife or peeler, like peeling boiled potatoes, peeling onions, shelling peas, and threading beans. The next step would be the use of a peeler. Here again, begin with such vegetables that have a definite shape and are easy to handle like carrot, radish and cucumber to name a few. Here, the movement requires a straight motion of the peeler as against vegetables like potato which needs rotation. Once the child has acquired and maintained peeling of long vegetables like carrot and cucumber, introduce round vegetables like potatoes. When this is maintained, introduce knife. Here again, in the acquisition phase, you should take care to introduce vegetables which have a definite shape and are easy to cut. Vegetables like lady's finger, peeled cucumbers, radish and carrot. With practice, if the child gains competency in slicing, then introduce round vegetables such as potatoes, brinjal and capsicum. Now that the student has acquired and has learned to maintain handling of a knife, the task of cutting cubes will be relatively easy for the student. Gradually increase the difficulty level to introduce vegetables that need peeling, slicing or cutting and removal of seeds like pumpkin, bitter gourd and papaya. The idea is to allow the student to learn gradually from simple to complex tasks. Vegetables that need to be cut holding few pieces together, such as a bunch of beans, cabbage and so on, need expertise in holding by the left hand and slicing carefully by the right hand. This also should be introduced towards the end, when the child is comfortable with the cutting of a single piece. Let the child get a feel of using a cutting board, holding the vegetables with the left hand while slicing with the right hand. Fine cutting of vegetables, such as slicing vertically, holding it together and again slicing horizontally, can also be introduced around this stage. Allow the student to peel and cut vegetables by selecting appropriate tool to be used while they work on it, and slightly increase the difficulty of the job. When the teacher maintains an order like this, it is less likely that the student will fail to learn. Here, one can see that no special aids are used, but the regularly used instruments are introduced in a particular order. Let us take a situation where a learning aid is useful. Plaiting hair for a girl child. Most parents report that this is one of the most difficult activities for their daughters with long hair. Plaiting has a particular type of hand function called fine motor function. Here, introduce the activity of the fingers first. Initially, use 3 colored ribbons and teach plaiting on it. When the student has acquired and maintained, introduce wool in 3 colors, hand functioning remaining the same. The child has the extra responsibility of maintaining the 3 parts without mixing up. If she mixes up, there is a visual clue. Gradually, increase the difficulty level to a single color where the parting is also done without mixing up, followed by plaiting false hair. Now it is time to introduce plaiting on herself, giving the visible part of her plait. You comb and plait her hair initially and give the rest in front where she can see. Allow her to complete the task. Finally, let her comb. Divide the hair into 3 parts and do the plaiting independently. By doing this, you are ensuring first that the complicated task performed by the fingers is made easy by the color coding initially. And once after fingers have perfected the skill, the codes are faded out gradually. Here, we have used a learning aid and stopped using it after the skill is acquired. The aid used is not expensive, and the task being the same, it only enhances the ease of learning. While selecting an aid, the trainer has to keep in mind whether it is being selected only for learning or to be used primarily by the person. If it is only for learning, the second decision on aids should be whether it is essential at all to use an aid, or can it be learnt in the natural environment. If it is required for learning and later not to be used, decision on when and how to fade out the use of the aid has to be carefully planned. When the material used for the direct task is expensive, the training can always occur with a simulated set of material. The point to keep in mind while learning is that the basic performance should be close to the final task to be performed with the actual material. Another important point to keep in mind while using aids for learning is low frequency occurrence within an activity. Every activity we perform daily can occasionally confront us with certain problems. Bathing is a daily activity with no problems. But there can be occasions when the water stops through the bath. One can slip and fall in the bathroom while bathing, can forget to carry the clothes or towel before going for the bath, or the clothes can fall into the water by mistake. To avoid clothes from falling in the bathroom, arrange the clothes in the order of last to use to come first on the rod and the towel on the top. Similarly, traveling by bus on the same route every day is a routine. Missing a bus or forgetting to get down at the right bus stop can be an occasional problem. Actually, when we think about it, every routine activity can have an occasional problem. A smart teacher should foresee while planning itself what can go wrong and be ready with a suitable solution. All the more so while training students with mental retardation who have limited abilities of problem solving. If a problem can have more than one solution, train the retarded student with a single solution rather than giving him all the alternatives, which will confuse him more. While teaching a student travel skills, train him to check on whether he has missed the bus or not. Absence of familiar faces in the bus stop. Confirm by checking with somebody. If he has missed the bus, give him one of the suitable solutions like wait for the next bus depending on the frequency, or go back home and inform parents, or walk to the school or workplace, whichever is appropriate in that context for the student. The child getting lost can be a low frequency occurrence. Train him to carry his address in the pocket. Tell him that if he finds himself in a strange place, he should show the address to somebody for help. By doing this, even if the student is non-verbal, his need is communicated. For prevention of low frequency occurrences, while ironing clothes, train the student to start with the left shoulder while ironing a blouse. While ironing a shirt, turn and begin at the back of the collar. Check for the correct heat and then continue. For a trouser, start from the inner side, and for a skirt, begin from the inner hemline. By doing so, even if the cloth is burnt, it can still be used. Always keep in mind the simple to complex criterion. Allow the student to set the table. Begin with items which won't get damaged or spoiled if dropped by mistake. Start with placing plates, water tumbler, getting plate mats, followed by food items that are not hot and can be carried with hand. When the child has acquired these skills, introduce carrying hot food items with respective support. Similarly, while clearing the table, judging the leftover quantity and selecting the suitable container to transfer, covering and putting in the refrigerator.
ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు లెక్క పెట్టు 5 మెంబర్స్ ఉన్నారా 5 బాటిల్స్ ఈ ట్రేలో పెట్టమ్మా.
Remember to appreciate every stage of successful attempt by the child. Gradually increase the difficulty level as and when the student acquires and maintains. These situations can also be used in teaching numbers, size, quantity, communication, and social skills appropriate for the situation. If carefully planned, a person with mental retardation can be successfully trained to carry out a number of activities at home and be a contributing member of the family. Some activities require certain adaptations to compensate for the intellectual impairment of a retarded person. These aids will be primarily used by the students with appropriate training and are called functional aids. This can be a simple digital wristwatch for a child who could not, after a number of attempts, learn to see time correctly on a regular clock dial. If the student can read numbers, a digital wristwatch would be a perfect help. Similarly, a child who has not been able to do carryover addition and borrowing subtraction can do simple shopping with a calculator. So, training plan for him will include use of the calculator, reading the amounts, paying and getting back the balance. An innovative teacher can even help to develop a picture and icon shopping list for a retarded individual who cannot read and write. These are primarily functional aids for shopping regular household items with the help of pictures or icons by the mentally retarded person. Every time a shopping list is made, he uses the pictures and manual to shop independently. Let us think of a situation where a student gets a job of weighing items into kilos, half kilos and 200 grams packets. In any consumer item, even 10 grams more or less will be a loss to either customers or the shop owner. Therefore, there can be no compromise on measurement. A retarded person may not be perfect in using a traditional weighing scale. Alternatives can be weight converted to volume or electronic weighing machine with indicators. The idea here is to follow a different process by providing certain functional aids. The final product delivered by the persons will be as good as anybody else's finished product. Parents mention that in a simple task like applying soap to the back while bathing, retarded children have a problem reaching the center of the back due to improper motor movement. A simple provision of a towel with a ring will make the person independent and is ensured of a clean bath. Children who have mental retardation along with cerebral palsy many a time require more number of functional aids. Adapted spoons, pencils and writing pads. Here is a point to keep in mind for a teacher of student with mental retardation. A functional aid should compensate for the intellectual impairment in the student. This helps them to meet the needs like problem solving, or when functional academics are not possible by him, to learn or in enhancing his memory skills. Simple adaptations or markings to identify right and left in the footwear, or to wear clothes which has fastening without support, and enjoying his leisure is possible if the teacher is innovative. To sum up what we have seen and learnt. Number 1. Use aids only when required. Try and teach in natural environments as far as possible. Number 2. While training on a task, always begin with an easy one and increase the difficulty gradually. Use a learning aid only if required. Number 3. A learning aid is one that is used to acquire a skill and is faded out after the skill is acquired. The fading out of the aid should be very gradual. Number 4. While training, keep in mind the low frequency occurrences and prepare the child with only one solution for the problem if it occurs. Number 5. Certain areas require aids to compensate for intellectual impairment in a child. These are known as functional aids. They are used by him for independent functioning in a given area. Number 6. Generate ideas in the development of functional aids. Whatever be the process followed, the end product of a retarded person's performance should be as good as a non-retarded person. Number 7. Every retarded citizen has a right to a lifestyle as that of a non-retarded person. An innovative trainer will make sure that he has access to all the facilities that others have, and he makes use of them effectively.